Okay, people, you can keep me company. I'm doing walnuts. If Uncle John was here, he'd be talking to me right now. Right. Still talk to him every day, people, and I miss him. Right. I tell him that, too. Right. I ask him what would we be doing. You know, would he be walking like he used to? Go to the stove, make himself a coffee, or whatever. Right. Offer to make me a tea. So anyway, I just want to say shout out to the North Surrey Home Depot Center in British Columbia, Canada, for the discount on the shingles that they gave me last night for Andre's shed, and some drywall for some wall repairs in the basement. Pretty cool. I'm a little worried about that troll network though, because they like to follow me around, so I don't know if it's a good thing if they start phoning up North Surrey and putting in orders, right? Because they're, you know, so busy and concerned about with what I'm doing. So anyway, Andre's shed will probably get done today in terms of the roof, thanks to Home Depot, my trusty friend. And that worked out pretty good last night. And then, because my neighbor gave me all that stuff, right? They ended up giving me this long metal thing. I don't know what it's called. There's a name for it. But it's specifically meant for roofs after you put on the shingles. And it turns out I have some, so I didn't have to buy any. Because the fellow at Home Depot, Jim, the manager, he was showing us how to install a roof and what things you needed. So, you know, not only do they give you the supplies, right? Not only do they provide supplies, but they also provide very good information in terms of the correct tools and materials that you need. So I'm pretty excited about that. Now for the next week or so, it's going to be downstairs. Now I'm going downstairs. Right, I have to rearrange the basement. And because my neighbor gave me a whole bunch of paint, I can start painting in bits and batches. Right, because, you know, I have to remember, we've been in this house for 7 years, so that's a long time, right? But because the baby's coming, I can't paint all at one time. It has to be in little bits and batches. Right? So that's fine. The point is that we're going to start painting and doing wall repairs, and the bathroom is a bit more extensive. Obviously the porch is a lot more extensive, but like I had said, over the winter, you know, something was going to be needed to be done with those rafters, because, and with that light, right? The light fixture will probably have to be changed, right? Because we have to determine why my son's room light fixture isn't working. So I actually have to do electrical stuff too. I have to buy new you know, with the light, where the light screws in, those things. I mean, it's just a matter of connecting the wires, right? When you take it out and replace it, but hopefully that's all that is, and that will solve the problem in my son's room with having no light. And so it's like 8:30 in the morning. So I'll probably do this for about 3 hours or so. till noon, because I got more outside than what's in my sink. And I'm like, you know, in the great grand scheme of things, I suppose these walnuts are insignificant, right? But when you look at it from a holistic point of view, like I say, Mother Earth, this is from Mother Earth, right? You can't get any more natural than that, people. Right? And I'm 55. This is how I tell myself, right? I'm 55. I've never seen these before, and I've seen a lot of trees, people. I used to play out in the forest, okay? Like I said, I jumped off of sand dunes. You know, I ran around the ocean for 7 hours at a time by myself as a kid. 9 years old, 10 years old, 11 years old, 12 years old. Right? And I've never seen walnuts. I can't ever remember a time when I seen a walnut tree. Never mind 2 different kinds. Right? So I think, well, if it was like that for me, then more than likely it will be like that for my grandson. Especially with these city councils not protecting these endangered trees. Because I've been told that out in the White Rock area and places like that, which is a little further out, right, there are groves of fig trees and cherry trees and that type of thing. But the people who are buying these properties are fencing them off and basically just killing off the trees. They don't let the people come in and eat the fruit as it's falling, because the interest is to let the grove die so they can build something. I mean, this is obviously old farmland. These trees was connected to a farmland type environment because the house that lived there was like an old farmhouse. Because I remember what it was like before they tore it down. It was a 2-story old farmhouse, but it was like a farmhouse. Right? And so if it's like that in 2017, where people are not interested in food-bearing trees, right? And they're cutting the ones down that exist already, what's it going to be like in another 20 years from now? Do you honestly think my grandson will come across this again in his lifetime? Right? Naturally. Like, this is a natural situation. These trees were planted over 100 years ago. The city of Surrey is going to be cutting down over 100-year-old trees to bring in 5-story apartment complex for old people with daycare underneath, which doesn't make any sense. That's going to block out all the sun for the people across the street in their monster homes. That doesn't make any sense either. Right? Because on one side of the street, all the little houses are being torn down to bring in monster homes. So it's monster home next to monster home next to monster home, with a few trees in there with very limited yard space to plant anything. And with the city on a mission to make everything look rich around here, you know, they don't want a lot of stuff out in the yard. They want flat grass. I mean, that's been pretty much determined right across the board. Right? So, the only way that my grandson would ever come across walnut trees, because he's going to remember this, people, trust me, right, is if he plants it himself. Seriously. That's how it will live on. Otherwise, these things will die out. If people don't plant and encourage the little ones to plant as they get older, these trees will die out, and anything that's, when it comes to a walnut product, will be imported in from China and places like that, to where you don't know what you're getting. You don't know if it's real rice or fake rice. You don't know what kind of chemicals they're using. You don't know if they're injecting something into the nut to fatten it up like a chicken. So, that's another thing to think about, right? Now, there's a lot of these nuts are grown in the States, but that's not to say that the trees in the States won't get wiped out either under some political agenda to, control what people eat. So, anyway, while we're out there, he finds these apples. I don't know if I already mentioned this on a video. I mentioned it to somebody in my neighborhood. But, he finds these apples from that tree that they decimated. I mean, it was bad enough that it didn't produce a lot of fruit this year because of the cold snap. But they killed half the tree. So anyway, the other half had a few apples on it, and a couple of them have already fell down. And what's my grandson doing, people? He's not looking at the rotten apple that fell off a half-dead tree, right? What he's looking for is he's looking for the seeds inside of it. And he finds two, and he brings them to me. And he tells me that we need to try and grow them. So I'm like, well, that's mission accomplished. What I've been doing with him now, since he's been home, will follow him for the rest of his life. And I do believe that under the right opportunity, right, he will plant a walnut grove. And if not a walnut grove, then maybe a cherry grove or an apple grove or something. Maybe a white oak grove. Who knows? He'll plant something though. Because he's already looking for the seeds in the apple. Now, how can we get the city of Surrey on that page where it wants to have groves? Because not only does it bring in food security to some degree. I mean, 2 trees is enough for our family. A lot of work for me, but on the great grand scheme of things as to what a grove can produce, right? It can produce food security for the region that grove is located in, right? Because groves are multiple trees that feed multiple people, right? And it keeps you in touch with Mother Earth and with nature. And it helps to ground your personality to, I don't want to say the meaning of life, because there's a lot of meanings to life, but it just grounds you to maybe the basics. How about that? It brings you back to the basics, right? So that when life gets hard or whatever it is, you can still find peace of mind, I guess you could say, in the fact that something like this, right, can create a lot of things. Because it doesn't just start and stop with the nut. Right? Like I said before, a walnut tree, you can process every part of it. The bark, the leaves, the husk, the walnut, the roots, and the wood. In my mind, that's a pretty amazing tree. Right? Very, very versatile. So, that's what I tell myself when I do this, right? Because it's not easy standing here doing this for hours. But I'm looking long term, the ramifications of what I'm collecting and how it's going to be dispersed out after it's been collected. and the nutritional value behind it, the spiritual aspects around it, you know, the future projections around it in terms of possibilities and opportunities and that type of stuff, right? And because next year, and this is the point of this video, next year, those trees might not be there. And like I said, I'm 55, and if it took me 50 years to see them, it will take me another 50 years to come across them. And if I'm already 55, I highly doubt it, people, that I will live to 105 years old. And if I do live to 105 years old, it will be my grandson bringing me the walnuts from his walnut grove that he planted when he was 25. And 25 years later, his walnuts are producing, right, in large amounts, where he comes to me and he says, Nana, look what you taught me. And I'll be like, you did a good job, Andre. I knew you could do it. I knew you could do it. So, I have to stick with these walnuts, people. I have to. Because if I don't stick with these walnuts and those trees get cut down next year, I'll be kicking myself in the ass. And I'll be saying, why the heck did I let that opportunity go by when I had the chance? So that's what I'm doing. I'm taking advantage of this opportunity, right? Because it's not every day that the good Lord blesses you with two full producing walnut trees with a message behind it, right? Right? You know? And we still have to write our children's book, right? The walnut monkey shaking the tree. Okay, so before I upload this video, I just want to clarify a myth. I've seen videos where people say that if they float on the top, they're no good. That's not true. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, oh God, anyway, there's like seven nuts floating. This is just a shell, right? 7 nuts floating. Out of those 7 nuts, probably all of them are good, except for maybe 1. But you can tell because this is heavy. So there's good nut in there. Good nut in there. Good nut in there. So last year I had a lot float, and I did them anyway. And because the year before that, when I did them the first time, I had noticed that floaty ones had stuff inside. Anyway, you've seen how many cups of walnuts I got last year from the ones that were floating in terms of just all of them, right? But if you look in here, look how many are at the bottom, sunk. Quite a few. So these are the nuts, anyway, based on that myth. These are obviously heavy. These are much heavier. I can feel them, right? Dry them off. And then when you want, for planting, to save some, you put them, dry them off, and you put them in a bag, and then you put them in the furthest part of your fridge, inside the bottom of your fridge, into the furthest back, into the back of the fridge, and you leave them there for the winter, and then you plant them in the spring. And English walnuts are pretty prolific. They catch really well. So I just wanted to remind people that if you're looking to plant, don't plant the ones that are floating, but don't believe the myth that there's nothing inside, because there is. Plant the ones that are at the bottom of the sink, when they sink down to the bottom, right? And after they've been in hibernation for 3 to 4 months at the back of your fridge. Or I suppose you could put them outside somewhere, cover them up so that the squirrels can't get into them, and leave them outside to go through that process, right? Okay. Okay, still August 23rd, so I've done the juice. There it is. Right, a little bit left over. It's in the fridge. Maybe for one of those snow cones or something. So anyway, this is 3 fairly large zucchinis. Shredded it. That's 2 full peppers. Because I decided to do the zucchinis, all 3. Okay, hold on. I think I'm going to cut a little bit more onion from my garden, right? And I don't know, maybe another shallot, just another little shallot and another little onion. And then some of this, half of this, or like a third maybe or something, you know, maybe about a third or something, I'm going to put, it's like a little chili pepper that's growing in my garden as well. So hold on. Oh, and look, the tomatoes are coming, people. And this is all I got from my plum tree. It needed burlap. Right? And my neighbor came by and gave me some plums today too. She bought those ones. Imagine that, from last year a full tree to this year that's all it was because of the cold snap that we had. Hold on. Okay, so another little onion from the garden, another shallot. What I had there, I don't have very much pickling salt, so this is Himalayan salt. Ugh. From my understanding, it doesn't have iodine in it. So I'm going to put all that in there. They say just do this with the salt, but the last time I did it, I put everything and mixed it all up and then salted it with because it's a double batch. I'll probably put, oh, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 of this, right? Anywhere between 3 to 5 tablespoons of salt, right? Mix it all up. Mix that in there, mix it all up. And then just let it sit for the night, right? They say 12 hours and that just sucks out the water, right? Squeeze it out. You know, people, I've been working so hard and I'm so stressed out. My short-term memory is like not even there, you know what I mean? I don't remember if I rinsed it with boiled water, because I'm going to boil this tonight so that when I make this the juice, right, for this, right, I'll you have boiled water, right? Anyway, so you can see how fast the liquid starts to fill up just with that little bit of salt. So anyway, I am just going to put this in the fridge. I've read where it says leave it out for 12 hours, but I'm not doing that. I'm just going to put a lid on it, and I'm putting it in the fridge. And there's one of those little hot peppers from my garden, so tomorrow I will cut that up, and after I take out some of that liquid. And yeah, hold on. Okay, people, so now is the 24th. I got my middle daughter mad at me because I'm not downstairs rearranging this basement, but I'm making plans to give away the mattress that I bought for when she moved out, which she's not moving out now, so now I have to get rid of the mattress. So I've given the mattress away anyway. It's just a matter of having it picked up and delivered, right? And so anyway, I'm only one person. I can only do so much. So this is 3 zucchinis from my yard, and I put the salt in it. You've seen that. So now what you do is you take it and you squeeze out the liquid. Obviously not in there, right? You squeeze it out, and then you put it in there, and then you take some boiled water. Sorry for whipping the camera around. You take some boiled water and you rinse it out, and you squeeze it out again, and then you do it again. Do it 2 times anyway, just to rinse out the salt. Now there wasn't a lot of salt in there to begin with, but so hold on. So I've already squeezed it out. That's how much water came out the first time around. It's a fairly big pot, you can see. And then I put the boiled water in there that I boiled last night for over 15 minutes to boil off the impurities and the chlorine. And I'm just moving it around, and then I'm going to squeeze it out, right? And then I'm going to count it out, because remember, I'm making half of this batch with some chilies, right? So hold on. Okay, so there's that one of those little hot peppers from my garden. So the only difference between the 2 of them in terms of what I'm doing is I'm just going to put this extra in one of these pots, right? For the 6 cups of zucchini, shallots, white onion, and red pepper. Hold on. Anyway, this is quite hot, so I just took that one, right? And I'm just putting it in one pot and cook it up with that. And then after I'm done this, I'm going to get the turkey in the oven because I took out a turkey a couple of days ago, so it's unthawed now, so it has to go in the oven. And then I'm going to take you downstairs and I'm going to show you what kind of house repairs I have to do as I'm being beat up over it because I'm not doing it fast enough, people, because I'm worried about this list with the $15,000 threat from the city. So now that the yard is like coming near to the end in terms of just whatever might be on this list, right? I'm going to get into porch repairs, garage, right? That's garage repairs, bathroom repairs downstairs, and kitchen cupboards repairs downstairs. On top of moving out the mattress that I had bought from my Korean neighbors because my daughter was moving out and I needed a mattress for somebody else to move in, right? But I had bought a futon first from my Korean neighbors because at first my daughter didn't want the couch down there, and so I didn't have a lot of money, so I got the futon for $10. Right, then she was moving out, and then came in the mattress, and then that kind of stopped everything. Well, everybody's figuring out what the fuck they're gonna do, as the city's riding my ass with the whip on the back, right? Got Fraser Health stealing my signature again, twice, right? First at the Surrey Memorial Hospital and the old Yale Road Center with Uncle John. Now it's with the masters in the courthouse. So I don't know. So you can see the difference. I'm going to put this in it, just pour this in. My little back burner doesn't work. And half the time this one doesn't work anymore either, so I don't know what's happening with my stove. Okay, people, so I take responsibility for Uncle John leaving me with emotionally damaged kids that expect miracles in a fucking day, right? Want to sit up there and say that I don't take responsibility for anything in this house in terms of the city harassing me right over the yard, and that, the problem downstairs is me because I'm the one that comes upstairs and grabs the towels and grabs the mats and takes them down and then doesn't wash what I took down and throw that off in the corner and then come upstairs and grab some more and throw that off in the corner after it's done and then get mad at me because those are my towels that are downstairs that shouldn't even be downstairs. Anyway, people, you know what? I'm so stressed out, I don't even know which one has the pepper. I think it's this one. Like, serious. Like, serious, man. Serious. If I wouldn't have had this yard to the extent that I had to deal with it in terms of the hours and just the whole 7 years of this yard, most of my, well, not most of my fabric, but a good third, maybe even half of my fabric that I have in this house since I've been in here would have been sewed up by now and done something with it. But, mothers are supposed to be at the disposal of their children. Even when their children get older, the children just expect way too much, right? I have kids that, my oldest son, mostly my oldest son, right? My younger son kind of going that direction a little bit, but not so much. But my oldest son got mad because we didn't live in a monster home. We didn't live in a house that you paid $4,500 a month just to be able to live there in terms of whether it was the mortgage or whether it was rent. We lived in a $1,200, two-story bungalow from the 60s, kind of like what I'm living in right now, and it wasn't good enough, people. It just wasn't fucking good enough. It never matters what it is that you do. It's just never fucking good enough. My grandmother warned me. She said, the more kids you have, the more stress you'll have, the more worry you'll have. That's what she told me, and she was so right.